This week's edition of NJBIA is Minding Your Business is brought to you in part by AT&T, helping family, friends, and neighbors connect in meaningful ways every day. By PSE&G, powering a future where people use less energy that's cleaner, safer, and delivered more reliably than ever. By New Jersey's community colleges, aligning education to build an innovative workforce. Find out how your business can benefit at njpathways.org. And by New Jersey Business Magazine, providing critical information needs for New Jersey's business community for more than 67 years.
Welcome to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. And as we rapidly head towards Election Day in New Jersey, the New Jobs PAC, the leading political voice for business in the state, has announced its endorsements for the 2025 State Assembly General Election. And here to tell us all about it is New Jobs Chair Tony Bawidamann. Tony, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
It's been great getting to know you over the last few years. You've always been so good, even when you were at NJBIA before this, in helping the business community and being a leading voice. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all that you do for business in New Jersey. Let's talk about New Jobs. Tell the folks what New Jobs PAC is.
New Jobs PAC is a PAC that was formed in the 1950s, 1960s. It's the oldest and largest business PAC in the state of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. It currently also has not only the largest businesses in the state, it also has the largest associations in the state. Mm. It also allows people to have a seat, organizations to have a seat at the table with elected officials to get their voice heard. Gives us a seat at the table when there's negotiations going on with either local issues or statewide issues. Gets us in the press, obviously, gets us in the media.
Right.
But more importantly, it's a great place for us to build coalitions at the local level. There's a lot of issues that go on in the state that our board members or even membership, when we're locked in a room together, talk about issues, and guess what? We have collaboration on issues there. Yeah. So it helps us not only have a seat at the table, but it helps us organize and collaborate as an industry.
That's great. And I want to get into process a little bit because I think it's fascinating how all these groups and members join in to kind of come to a consensus opinion. But first, I just want to bring up, you've been chair now for, I guess, a year and a half almost.
Wow, it doesn't seem like that,
right?
Right?
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, what was your goal taking over as chair, and how's it going?
Well, it's going great. It's going better than expected. Mm-hmm. I think that once I saw the opportunity, when I served on the board of the PAC, and as I looked at the PAC, I said, there's something that I want to lead. That's something I want to build, and I want something that will flourish. But we did a couple things that have been different in the last 60 years. Mm-hmm. Because in New Jersey, the races in New Jersey have a lot of them been around general elections, right? If you go back to the 1980s and 1990s, the legislature flipped back and forth from Democrat to Republican over general election races, right?
Right.
But because of the way the maps are cut right now and gerrymandered, right? And that's probably a word that a lot of folks don't understand how they're cut. Is that it's about primary races. It's not about general elections anymore, right? Now, there will be some people that will disagree with me and say, well, we're going to pick up 9, 10, 15, 20 seats. As you start looking at the maps, it's primary races, right? So when I became chair, I changed the way we thought about races and said, at the local level, because the primary races were turning over legislators and new legislators coming out of primary races than general election races. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to say, hey, listen, we have to go and look at folks in the primary. So this past year, we went into the primary, right. We talked to folks, and we looked at folks and said, okay, is this person in this primary good for business? Do we want this person back, or do we want somebody new? As we looked at it, and it was interesting as we got into this because 60 years of doing something, sometimes it's hard to change. And you know that from the business industry,
sure.
from the building that we sit in, and the membership here, have been here for 20, 30, 40 years, are used to a certain way. Yeah. And here comes me saying, okay, the dynamics have changed in the state, right? Mm-hmm. The politics have changed in the state. Yeah. The power from north to south has changed in the state. but so should we. And if not, I thought the PAC would be a dinosaur. And as we changed to the primary, it has been better than I ever thought, because I think members are coming. We've brought in a lot of new members saying, we like that, we like your philosophy.
Right.
Let's join together with that. But I think that it's been going better than expected because of the direction in leadership that we have as we started moving forward, and the relationships that we've made now in the primary. Let's go back to last cycle. 30 new people, right? That's a lot, right? And I've been here, on and off, as you will know. When I was at Bristol Myers, I did the federal stuff, so I wasn't here in the state.
Right.
But the last 10 years, it's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
But how do you get to meet those people? And that's where the PAC came into. We do an interview process, we talk to folks, and we get to know folks in the primary and the general election. So it allows our membership to get to know folks and get to know who they are, where they come from, and how will they be business or not business friendly. We'll find out in the interview process.
So when you bring a legislator in, I assume some know about the New Jobs PAC, some may not be as aware.
Sure.
So you got a wide range here?
Sure. I think that, they go off from a lot of times too, is, 20 years ago, from friends of ours is yesterday, right? Oh, well, 20 years ago. No, and some legislators kind of see New Jobs and they look at it and go, oh yeah, that's the business PAC. And we've breathed some new light into it with the help of yourself and other to raise awareness of who we are and what we do externally. So members, it was interesting this year. So last year last cycle when we sent out stuff, people were like, oh yeah, New Jobs, I'll come. People were so interested this year, they called us.
Right.
Well, it's never happened probably in 60 years now. If you go back to 1962 or 63, maybe they've called, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Sure.
But this year, people called us, and I guess I was really humbled because we looked at this PAC and we put a lot of great folks around the table on my board that are bar none the leaders of the community, the business community here in the state. And members were calling us to get on our schedule, which in the past I haven't had.
Right.
And that's both Democrats and Republicans who wanted our endorsement, who looked for our endorsement. That didn't happen in the past. So I think that's a little bit different. As we raised, as you know, we did a couple different things this year. We did a poll with Rutgers, which I think that with Ashley and I coding and us again, we'll do something again next year. But we did it around the economy. It got a lot of press. But when people read that and they said, well, the economy is not really well, and they say, well, they knew that, but it gave us some data points to talk to across the street here in the legislature to talk to folks. But it also honed in our skills of data sets that we can use polling statewide, get our message out. So members now look at that and say, okay, these guys are polling. These guys know the issues. And guess what? The grassroots that they can put together on issues is strong and it's fierce.
And so let's go through I guess there's an interview process when folks are running for office, legislative office. What is the process? How does it work? How does it start?
That's the most fun to me. Not necessarily some folks.
Right.
I'll start you a day in the summer. So we do these we did some in the primary, which we'll do. Let's forecast into 27. So get ready, legislators. If you're listening to this, we're going to do this in early in 27. But in the summertime, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, is the PAC day. And it's interesting because, like a lot of my colleagues during the summertime, it's a time to kind of be with family, take off.
Yeah.
Not me, right? Because as the chair of the PAC and folks, and I really want to talk about my PAC board, my PAC board and the membership.
Right.
We drove sometimes across the state, as you will know. It's, leaving my house in the summertime on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning at 7 a.m. to drive somewhere in 2 hours worth of traffic. Yeah. But it's that important, right? So in the interview process, it looks like this. It'll probably be 20 to 30 businesses, large business associations across the state. And we ask folks, and this is not a gotcha. Tell us about yourself, right? And this is the process to get to know a legislator, where a legislator will say, well, I went to this college, and oh, by the way, I went there too. Right. Or my kids are doing this. Oh, my kids are doing that also. So it's a real conversation.
It's always better to be in person, right? I mean, to talk to folks.
Look, I think this drives me, is one of my pet peeves. And look, I work for a broadband company, but it has to be personal. It has to be interactive. So we can see the reaction. They can see us. We can touch the flesh and we can talk to them. But the interview process, about 20, 30 folks that we have on a given day, we talk to the legislator or non-incumbent who's running for their seat. We ask them a few questions that around, would you be good for the business community? And there's certain pointed questions that someone would ask about their industry and say, flourishing. Look, the state's let's be honest, the state's at a crossroads right now, right? The economy is, we're just not sure where it goes, right? At the end of the day, with the folks in Washington or our governorship here, the legislature, we're not sure where that economy goes, but we do know a couple things about this economy. It's about affordability, but it's also about affordability where people cannot afford things.
Right.
So they may not buy goods and services from the companies around that table. So the affordability issue is that they have to cut something from them. It may be a nice to have, right? They may cut this or that. They may cut their cell phone. They may cut, from our industry, their broadband. They may cut something.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's our worry. So when we look at legislators, when we interview them, are you going to build this economy? Because it needs to be built.
Right.
In a flourishing economy, everybody wins, not only from us, also the constituency who is spending and the consumer spending. But let's go further. Let's talk about if you're owning a business and you want to come to New Jersey, you don't, for a couple of reasons.
Right.
Highest business tax, right?
Right.
Which only 60 companies pay,
Right.
But it may go higher, right? Because they took it away and they put it back, took it away, put it back,
Corporate
right?
business tax.
If you are a company, you build out 5 to 10 years. It's unpredictability, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't come here, right? If you wanted to bring your company's employees and their family here, your house is expensive, right? So it's very, very expensive to live here. So I think that as we interview folks, we talk to them about that. A lot of times, and this is not indicative of both Democrats and Republicans, they look at us as a funding source. Here's a pet project I want. Oh, well, who's going to fund that? Oh, let's look at the largest businesses, right? And we're the PAC is their associations also, so members of ours will pay that tax. And sometimes they look at us as that ATM, right? As where do you fund that? So those are some things that we talked about with folks. Obviously taxes, business climate, how can you bring in companies, and what are you going to do from a policy standpoint to bring more companies in? But it goes even farther than that. It's about investment in the state. You may be here, but are you going to invest? As you will know, there's a large pharmaceutical company just up the street. His CEO said, what? We're going to South Carolina, North Carolina, right? We're going to spend $2 to $3 billion, right? Why, right? And look, not growing up here, but my son growing up here, is he going to be able to afford his house in our neighborhood? Is he going to get a job? Those are my worries from him in high school right now, is how does he flourish here? So those are important things, not only as a business owner, but a resident here. So we take the interview process very seriously, and so do most legislators.
Yeah, so as you're talking about this, it occurs to me like maybe there's some legislators who aren't even aware that we have not such a great business climate, and maybe they think they're on their heels a little bit. Is this an interrogation that you're asking? Does it ever get to that stage?
No. Some people on the outside may perceive that.
Right.
But no, I think that we've told them this is not a gotcha. Let's get to know each other. I think that what's lost, and we talked about this in the last segment, was interaction. We have to interact with folks more. We just have to. That means me being in the State House every day that I possibly can to talk to folks. They have daily lives. They have families. This state, their day jobs. They have a lot of stuff going on. It's the interaction. It's us shaking hands. It's us talking as human beings. Has to be done more. I don't think folks come in there and they think that we're going to be adversary. Some may think that, but I haven't got that at all in this last go round. Or the last one I did 2 years ago. No, I didn't see that at all.
Okay. So I mentioned on the outset, New Jobs Pact just endorsed 68 candidates in 36 legislative districts. Obviously, we don't have the time to go through each one of those endorsements, but what can you say generally about these candidates? Like, what do they have that got them there?
I'm excited. I was excited about last cycle's class, and I'm excited about this class for a reason.
Okay.
I think people are not coming to burn this place down. We saw that a couple of years ago. And there's still a couple of people in the legislature that want to burn this place down. It's not how this works. It works by collaborating, talking. I'm very excited about some of the new candidates that are coming. I'm excited about some folks that are coming back. because they want to work. There's some business leaders on the Democratic side. There's a couple of small business owners. There's also some on the Republican side.
Right.
I'm excited about them working together on a couple of issues that can get the state going, like permitting, right? You know, if you talk about, you know, the pharmaceutical company moving, you can get shovel in the ground so much quicker in another state than here. Average permitting, right, for either housing or business is a year. And then I don't want to talk about moving poles and utility lines in another 16 months, right? But it's a lot, right, at the end of the day. But I'm excited about the folks that are coming to the legislature right now. The folks, let me talk about the folks that we endorsed.
Right.
I'm very excited about them, working with them, building a better relationship with them. And it takes a lot for me to excited about the legislature and what we're working on. But I think under, you know, both DeMaio and Speaker Coughlin, they have got some really, really good caucus members and candidates. We as the business community need to talk to them about putting folks together in bipartisan fashion, whether either it's permitting or lowering energy costs here in the state.
Right.
And we need to work together with them. And we don't, that's the common solution versus us or somebody else pointing fingers. We got to work together.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's just a matter of striking a balance sometimes. Sometimes it seems like it's not so balanced for the business community. I want to ask you, Tony, since you're hitting on all this great momentum for New Jobs PAC, I know you recently held a kind of like a gala event of some sort for those endorsees. Did you get a sense of momentum from the candidates too about the PAC?
Yeah, it was the largest attended event in the 60 years of the PAC. Well over 100 people, well over 25 legislators with the speaker there, which I think was great, where folks can share ideas, talk to folks. They can see the momentum of the PAC. They can see where we're going in direction in the PAC. Again, this all goes back to conversation. This goes for an open dialogue between us and legislators, and I welcome it. And I think that as we build upon this, I look for 27 to be even a larger event, and for us to be a larger PAC.
Obviously, you got some great momentum going on with New Jobs right now, and you should probably thank all those board members of businesses who've given their time to establish, what should be the business climate in New Jersey. So well done by them. Folks, if you want to learn more about New Jobs PAC, even make a contribution. I think every little bit helps, right? You're going to go to newjobspac.com. So Tony Bawidamann, thanks.
Thanks for having me today.
All right, great job. We'll be back right after these words.
Did you know cleaning and tuning your furnace, burner, boilers, and flues can save you energy and money? Plus, there are rebates for that. Believe it. For more, connect at bizsave.pseg.com, your trusted partner in energy efficiency.
Welcome back to NJBIA's Mind Your Business as we turn to NJBIA's recently held Women Business Leaders Forum. This was the 11th annual Women's Conference, drawing more than 550 attendees over 2 motivational days to inspire and empower personal success for those already in the C-suite or for those aspiring to get there in the future. So let's join the C-suite panel discussing the skills that matter most in 2025. Have a look.
Thinking about resilience, I would actually go back to, I'm originally from Venezuela. And if you don't know the situation there, it's quite difficult and it's quite complicated. But something that is innate to, I think, our culture is optimism. And it's looking ahead at the long term, knowing that all of the efforts that you put into your every single day, it's going to pay off in that long term. So I think it's been critical for me in my entire experience, both leaving my home country and I've worked with Amazon globally, has definitely been that focus on the long term and looking about it with an air of optimism.
Can you tell me how you identified and secured mentors?
We have a leadership program at Forvis Mazars, but I think accountability is really the key concept, right? I identified my mentor when I was young by somebody who was holding me accountable to certain standards and communicating with them of what I wanted to achieve. I think communicating with your teams, making sure that you're managing the expectations on the onset of where they want, and understanding that there's no one size fits all, that everybody's path is slightly different. When you open that dialogue and you hold the team members accountable, I think it makes it easier to mentor because you're able to dialogue with them on where they want to go. and you're able to be able to speak freely about that path, and that their journey might be slightly different than what your expectations would be.
I chose my boss's boss as my mentor. He did not know that I had chosen him. But I often worked late, not to say anyone needs to, I just did. And he would meet with my boss once a week, I think. And my boss did not want me speaking with him unless she was present. How many of you have bosses like that? Don't raise your hand. She might be in this room, or he might be in this room. I literally stood outside my office door waiting for him to exit my boss's door, waiting for her to step back in, and I literally did this. Psst, psst. Turned around like, where am I? What is going on? And I was like, come here, come here. And that is how we started a relationship. I've been working with him ever since. That probably was in 2012. So while it's good to be selected by a wonderful leader who can give you what you need, the advice, the encouragement, the support, sometimes you have to pick your mentor. Just keep that in mind. Also, something I think you said, you can learn so much from a mentor. But sometimes you can learn how not to be a leader, or what not to do when you're a leader, as well as what to do when you are a leader. Just remember that and chew on that. I have definitely had a leader or two from whom I've learned what not to do. And it's just as important. How have you maintained balance on your journey to and within the C-suite? And I'm talking about work-life balance.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know.
Right. I can jump in. This is a topic that comes up from time to time, and I think I have a bit of an unusual perspective on the concept of balance and women C-suite leaders. I think that balance is a bit of a misnomer. When you are in these leadership roles, your priority is your organization, and you are ultimately responsible. And so I think as I think of myself, I have 2 children, they're 24, 25, I've worked their whole, upbringing, but I really chose my roles based on my commitment and my belief in the kind of mother I wanted to be, and the arrangement and the discussions with my husband. And so I think that we have to be very aware that we can't do it all at the same time. And so I think that's a really big message. I think a lot of women coming up, emerging leaders, a lot of us, there is a misnomer, that we can get up at 4, work out, get the kids up, get everybody dressed, out to school, drop daycare, get to school, somehow get to work, crush it for 6 or 7 hours, lead a team, raise money, drive initiatives, do a public event, and then get to school at 3 o'clock for pickup, and then run everybody through the afternoon activities, dinner, homework, bed, all of it. It's not realistic. And I think we try to do it, and we can't do it. And I think when the sooner we start normalizing that we can have it all, just maybe not at the same time, then the better we will feel. Our companies will have a different set of expectations about contribution and value. And I do think that at the end of the day, our businesses and our economy and our communities ultimately will be better for it.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
I remember the first time that I interviewed somebody. It was probably, 15 years ago. And it was an intern at a local school, and they asked me, how's your work-life balance? How do you maintain a work-life balance? And I just started to laugh. I laughed out loud, because I had never heard the term before, and I thought that certainly wasn't something I thought about when I was interviewing or being interviewed. I think somebody told me a long time ago that something that resonated with me and that I think about all the time, that you're always trying to keep all the balls in the air. And you can't keep them all in the air. You just have to prioritize them and hope that the one that drops is the rubber ball and not the crystal ball. So I think that, you know, if you kind of keep that in mind and understand that you're trying to keep a lot of things going at once and prioritize the ones that you make sure don't drop.
What would you say is the one super skill you've developed that has been most essential to your success? I saw you grabbing the mic. Ready for that one?
I think this is a really important question, especially if we kind of look back on the last 5 or so years and a lot of the challenges that, you know, my esteemed panel and all of us have really had to lead during and through. And I think one of the things that's really important is this concept of within being a leader of staying calm. And, you know, that sounds so obvious, but how you practice that and what I've really tried to focus on is kind of zooming out, really connecting to your core mission, your purpose, your vision for your organization, your company, and really taking a very, very far step back so that you're able to kind of see through a lot of the stressors and challenges and kind of day-to-day details so that you are able to really focus on what are we trying to accomplish at the end of the day and how can we get there given all the challenges.
Does anyone else want to answer that one? Can you think of your super skill?
I would just echo what was said in terms of staying calm and listening. I think it's so critically important. I don't see it as optional. You know, you need to be tuned into all of your stakeholders at every level because they have different experiences. They may be working with your members or your clients, and they hear things and see things that you would never see being at the executive level. So it's important to be able to get that feedback, and oftentimes at the executive level, we're expected to make decisions, and so it's important to at least hear that shared perspective, and that will help you to decide because you don't want to make these decisions in a bubble because too many people are impacted.
You know, I work in workforce development, and there are a lot of people in my sector who espouse that AI is going to replace all of us and take our jobs. That is not true. The people who better utilize AI will be the ones who take our job. Our goal should be to learn how to properly and most efficiently use it.
I think it's like when the Industrial Revolution came along, right? People were afraid that machines were going to take our jobs. Machines made our jobs easier. And we've been talking a lot about change, and it can be scary. We've talked about how scary it can be. How can we stay ahead of it? I think, especially with AI, we need to be very curious about what that new world looks like, and if the role doesn't exist yet, we will forge it. So how can we envision ourselves? How can we be at the forefront of that change? We're in Amazon, we're using AI all over the place. It's very exciting. And it's all about trial and error. And we can only do that if we're curious about the change that's coming. So yes, definitely facing it with a hint of playful curiosity.
Do you think you already have the skills to face challenges? Like, when you face challenges in the C-suite, did you realize, you wake up and think, you know what, I know exactly what to do?
I think you have to be problem solver. I think that as you go on through life, you learn from everything you experience. You learn from the things that you do well, and you learn from the things that you don't do so well. Same thing with people around you. You can look at people around you and say, that's something I want to emulate or take from that situation, or I want to make sure I don't behave like that because I don't think people responded well to that. So I think that we all have to be lifetime learners, and we all have to continue to learn and develop and find ways to meet those challenges. But I also think it's not like you wake up one day and say, I'm here. I think you got to keep on learning and keep on going with everything that you do.
All right, thanks to our speakers, panelists, and moderators from NJBIA's 11th Annual Women Business Leaders Forum. And thank you for joining us on NJBIA's Mind Your Business. We'll see you next time.